I heard about my first job in publishing through work experience. So I was the books editor at my university newspaper and sort of became friendly with the publicist at HarperCollins and used that contact to get work experience there. And when I arrived, she was about to resign, so I got her job because I was there. I'm an editor here and I commission, so my job is to acquire, edit and publish great books. The most interesting part of my job is always working with the writers and working with the text, and because I've always been a huge reader and really interested in books and writers, so it still feels really exciting to me and interesting that I get to work on a book before it goes out to the wider world. That's definitely the most interesting part. The most rewarding part of my job is when things go well and a book that you really love and believe in and have really worked on, and you've got the right package and the right title, and then when it goes out into the world, so when it gets reviewed and goes into bookshops, when it actually really works and you feel like the book really connects with people outside of the building, that's really, really rewarding, because I mean, we're a business, so it is about sales and making a profit, but also sales mean that people are reading the book that you really like, so that is really, really rewarding. And it's not just selling bread rolls, it's getting a book that you love into the hands of people and having them love it too. That's the most rewarding thing. The most frustrating part is probably exactly the opposite to what I just described. So, because obviously there are some books where you feel like they have maybe a broader reach or a bigger readership, but ultimately you only acquire a book because you think readers out there will love it, that it's a great book, and that people want to read it. And the most frustrating thing is when it turns out people don't want to read it, or they don't like it, or it just doesn't connect in some ways. And it's always pretty inexplicable. You can always come up with reasons. Oh, it was the jacket, or there was another similar book, or on and on and on. But you never know. So, and that's you've always put in exactly as the same amount of time and effort. So then when it doesn't connect, it's really frustrating. One of the things I like about my job in working in editorial is that I think you need a really broad range of skills. So there's aspects to my job which are very introverted, so it's lots of reading and editing at home. That's completely self-directed, just working by yourself. But then there's a whole aspect to editing a book which is very much about teamwork and about being social and building relationships. So that's working with the agent, working with the writer, and then you have the team in-house who helps you publish the book. So from the designer, the marketing person, the publicist. So I really like that there's both of those aspects. And then sort of in terms of more specific skills, obviously you have to be a really great reader and very wide in your reading, very patient. You have to want to reread something a lot of times, because that's what editing means, is doing a lot of rereading, close reading, really thinking about how a book works or how it doesn't work and how you might fix it. And then there's lots of other skills, though. There's writing. I do a lot of writing from, writing a pitch to an author, writing copy for the book, writing copy for marketing, catalogs, that kind of thing. There's a lot of presenting as well, again, when you're pitching and trying to get a book, but also presenting to in-house colleagues at editorial meetings or sales conferences. Sometimes I pitch to retailers or librarians, things like that. So there's a really wide range, which makes it fun. I think the working culture of the publishing industry is very creative, it's very social, it's very personal and intimate, because it's, you're working with people's books that they've poured their hearts into and years into. It's pretty relaxed, it's not very hierarchical, you don't have to wear a suit. So yeah, those are the words I'd use. I think the most interesting development that's happened in the publishing world's, for me, this is a personal response, but I think social media, more than ebooks actually, for me anyway. Ebooks sort of just feel like another format. I know, they have their own challenges, and there's specific genres where people tend to read more ebooks. But for me, social media has been kind of magical in that you can see word of mouth. Obviously, it's not all word of mouth. Only certain kinds of people use Twitter or use Facebook. But word of mouth is something that people have always been obsessed with in publishing. Advice I'd give to someone who wants to get into publishing, particularly editorial, I think a lot of people go into publishing having studied literature and having a really sort of deep knowledge of the history of literature, which is really, really important. But I think it's also key to have read a lot of contemporary books and, books that have just come out in the last year, the last 6 months, to be really aware of what's on prize lists, what's on book club picks, what's being read out on Radio 4. Certainly when I look back, that is what I was completely ignorant of when I came out of university. I'd read a lot of George Eliot, but I actually wasn't very aware of what was going on right now in terms of what's being published and written and talked about. And for me, that really makes people stand out if they can say, talk about a couple books that have been just published in the last 6 months or year.